Kemi was an early riser in the small town of Iyabode, a peaceful Yoruba village where the morning sun painted the red earth gold. She lived in a modest compound bordered by palm trees and a small vegetable patch. Life had always been simple but full of love between Kemi and her father, Adewale, a hardworking farmer known for his generosity. Neighbors would greet them warmly each day, praising Kemi's diligence and bright smile. One Harmattan morning, Adewale sat beside Kemi under the shade of a large mango tree, discussing the future. "My child," he said gently, "you're growing into a strong young woman. I want you to have all the chances in life that I never had." Kemi's face lit up with hope. Adewale had saved some money and planned to expand his little farm so Kemi could attend a better school in a nearby town. They dreamt of a brighter future together. But destiny had other plans. Several weeks later, Adewale brought home a woman named Iyabode, who he introduced as his new wife. Iyabode had two daughters close to Kemi's age, Wura and Femi. The village buzzed with excitement for the new family arrangement. Kemi, shy but polite, welcomed them with open arms, hoping to have the sisters she'd always wanted. Once Iyabode moved in, the household atmosphere began to change. At first, she acted kindly, cooking spicy stews and jollof rice for everyone. But it wasn't long before she revealed a harder side. She insisted on rearranging the house to her liking, pushing Kemi into a cramped corner room. Meanwhile, her own daughters took the best space. Kemi was troubled but stayed respectful, trusting her father's decision. Adewale, unfortunately, had to travel to Ibadan for trade, leaving the women alone for several days. While he was gone, Iyabode piled housework on Kemi. Wura and Femi sneered whenever Kemi approached, calling her names for her simple clothes and quiet nature. Late at night, Kemi cried softly, remembering her father's promise of a better life. She resolved to endure the hardships, hoping her father would return soon and make everything right again. Days stretched into weeks as Adewale's absence grew longer. Each morning before dawn, Kemi was up fetching water from the communal well. She swept the compound, scrubbed pots, and prepared breakfast while Wura and Femi slept in, pampered by their mother. Iyabode seemed determined to bury Kemi under an avalanche of work. "You must earn your keep," she would scold, even though Kemi never complained. Yet, Kemi's spirit remained bright. Neighbors pitied her, offering small gestures of kindness, a leftover piece of yam or a few kind words. Kemi would just smile and say, "I'm fine. I'm strong." Each day felt heavier, but her determination kept her going. Wura, the older stepsister, flaunted fancy hairstyles and bright clothes. She prided herself on being the beauty of the family. Femi, though younger, had a sharp tongue and never missed a chance to poke fun at Kemi's tattered slippers or simple hairstyles. One afternoon, the two sisters cornered Kemi as she was preparing to wash clothes by the stream. "Look at her," Wura giggled, pointing at Kemi's worn-out bucket. "Father left us money, but you're too pitiful to get new things." Femi chimed in, "Soon, we'll be the talk of the village, going to all the parties in Lagos and Ibadan. You'll just stay home and scrub." They burst into laughter, leaving Kemi to her chores with tears brimming in her eyes. Despite their mockery, Kemi silently vowed that one day she would rise above their cruel words. One evening, a traveling merchant arrived in the village. He brought word that Adewale was delayed by business troubles in Ibadan and would likely stay there a few more weeks. The news stung Kemi. She had hoped each sunset would bring her father's return, but now she had to soldier on without him. Iyabode pretended to be worried about Adewale but quickly resumed her harsh stance. Whenever Kemi delivered something late or forgot a small task, Iyabode would shout, "You ungrateful child. If you can't keep up, maybe you don't belong here." Those words stung more deeply than any chore could. Still, Kemi clung to hope. She often prayed under the moonlit sky, recalling her mother's gentle face and her father's promise of better days. In that quiet solace, she found strength to face yet another day. As the sun rose over Iyabode, the town crier's gong echoed through the dusty streets. Everyone rushed to the village square to hear an important announcement from the Oba. Kemi stood at the back, trying not to draw attention, while Iyabode, Wura, and Femi strutted to the front as if they were royalty themselves. The crier announced, in honor of the prince's visit to our region, there will be a grand festival in the city of Ibadan. All are invited to come and celebrate. The crowd erupted in excitement. A chance to attend a major festival was rare. Kemi's heart fluttered, maybe this was an opportunity for a moment's joy. But she also knew that Iyabode would never allow her to attend. At home, Wura and Femi were ecstatic. "We'll need new osook," Wura declared, spinning around with delight. "I want a matching geli," Femi added, clapping her hands. Iyabode beamed with pride. "Yes, we must all look stunning for the prince's arrival. This could be our chance to marry into royalty." Kemi listened quietly as she continued washing the floors. In her heart, she yearned to attend the festival. She remembered her father once promising to take her to see cultural dances and colorful stalls selling everything from beadwork to roasted corn. But now, with Adiwale far away, Kemi's hopes seemed dim. Still, she couldn't help imagining herself in a beautiful Ankara gown, dancing under bright lanterns. She thought, if only I had someone to help me, someone who understood my dreams. Later that day, Kemi sneaked to the backyard for a moment of rest. She sat on a wooden bench beneath a guava tree, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She could almost hear distant drums and laughter coming from the festival. A gentle breeze lifted a strand of hair off her face. Suddenly, an old woman carrying a small basket approached. Her name was Mama Basira, a widow who lived near the marketplace. She placed a hand on Kemi's shoulder and offered a sympathetic smile. "My child, I have seen how hard you work," she said softly. "You deserve happiness, too. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Then she handed Kemi a tiny pouch. "Keep this safe. It's a little good luck charm. Sometimes we need a spark of faith." Kemi thanked Mama Basira and clutched the pouch tightly. Although she wasn't sure how it could help, she felt a warm reassurance in her chest, like a small flame of hope was ignited within her. The days leading up to the festival were busier than ever. Iyabode hovered around the house, barking orders. "Kemi, fetch more water. Kemi, press Wura's clothes. Kemi, polish Femi's shoes." From dawn till late night, she worked tirelessly. Wura and Femi chatted non-stop about their outfits and how they planned to catch the prince's eye. Each time Kemi tried to suggest she might also attend, Iyabode scoffed. "You? With what clothes? And who will finish all the chores?" she sneered. The stepsisters burst into laughter, mocking Kemi's simple wardrobe and calloused hands. Kemi's cheeks flushed with shame, but she swallowed her pride. One evening, Kemi retreated to the old storage hut behind the main house in search of an unused pot. While rummaging through dusty crates, she stumbled upon a wooden box. Out of curiosity, she opened it. Inside was a delicate pair of beaded slippers and a faded photo of her late mother wearing them. The realization made her gasp. Her mother had once been admired for her skill in beadwork. Kemi carefully touched the slippers, marveling at the intricate designs of coral beads and tiny mirrors embedded in the straps. Though old, they glimmered under the lantern light. Overwhelmed by memories, Kemi could almost feel her mother's gentle presence guiding her. She slipped them onto her feet. They were slightly big, but an odd warmth spread through her body, as if her mother was whispering, "Don't give up." Later that night, Kemi was outside pouring water from the day's laundry, still thinking about her mother's slippers, when Mama Basira appeared again like a silent guardian. "Daughter, I see the festival is causing you distress," she remarked gently. Kemi nodded sadly, explaining her wish to attend but lacking proper clothes. Mama Basira looked thoughtful. "Sometimes, what we need is already with us. Those slippers you found, do they not hold your mother's blessing?" She opened her basket and pulled out an exquisitely patterned ochre fabric and some gleaming accessories. "Take these. Consider it a gift from someone who believes in you." Kemi's eyes widened. "But, Mama Basira, I have no way to repay you," she protested. The old woman only smiled. "Use them well, child. Let your mother's spirit guide you. When the time comes, you'll find a way to stand out." Kemi felt tears pricking her eyes, a mix of gratitude and excitement. Holding the fabric in her arms, she dared to dream, could I really attend the festival, perhaps even meet the prince? At last, the day of the festival arrived. Iyabode, Wura, and Femi woke before dawn, dressing in their finest new outfits. Their geli head wraps stood tall like regal crowns, and their jewelry sparkled in the sunlight. "Hurry, Kemi, help us pack the car," Wura snapped, pointing to a hired vehicle they had arranged for the trip to Iyabode. Kemi obediently hauled bags and boxes while they fussed over their makeup. Just as they were about to leave, Kemi ventured one last request. "Stepmother, may I please come with you? I've finished all the chores." Iyabode laughed scornfully. "In those rags? Don't be ridiculous. Stay here and clean the yard. I don't want to see a speck of dirt when we return." With that, they drove off, leaving Kemi alone in the dusty courtyard. A heavy silence filled the air. Kemi stared at the fading trail of dust left by the car. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she recalled Mama Basira's words and her mother's slippers. Summoning courage, she rushed to her small room and retrieved the precious items. She spread the vibrant ochre fabric on her mat. Though she had never sewn anything grand before, her late mother's skill with needle and thread seemed to surge through her hands. Under her nimble fingers, the fabric transformed into a simple but striking gown. She combed her hair, securing it with beaded pins gifted by Mama Basira. Finally, she slipped on her mother's beaded slippers. In the broken shard of a mirror that hung on the wall, Kemi barely recognized herself. The ochre fabric's bold pattern brought out her soft features, and the slippers glowed with an otherworldly shimmer. She took a shaky breath. "I can do this. I deserve happiness, too." Determined not to miss the festival, Kemi hurried to the edge of the village. Just as she began to worry how she would travel all the way to Iyabode alone, she saw Mama Basira waiting with a small donkey cart. "Climb aboard, child," the old woman said, her eyes twinkling. "We'll get you there." They set off on the dusty road. The cart moved slowly, but Kemi's excitement grew with every turn. She noticed a faint glow trailing from her slippers, almost like they were guiding her way. After a few hours of bumpy travel, they reached the outskirts of Iyabode. The city's bright lights and festive decorations took Kemi's breath away, colorful streamers, drumbeats echoing across the streets, and the aromas of roasted plantain and spiced meat drifting in the air. As they approached the festival grounds, Mama Basira gently helped Kemi off the cart. "Go now. Shine like the star you are," she whispered. Kemi thanked her, heart pounding with anticipation. She had never felt more alive. The festival grounds were alive with music, dance, and laughter. Colorful lanterns hung from tall poles, casting a glow over the crowds. Traditional dancers moved to the rhythms of talking drums, while vendors sold everything from puff-puff to suya. Kemi navigated the throng of people, heart racing with excitement. Her ochre gown, though humble compared to some elaborate outfits, shone brightly under the festival lights. From across the wide courtyard, she spotted Iyabode, Wura, and Femi, who were busy bragging to anyone who would listen about their supposed wealth. They didn't even recognize Kemi, who kept her distance. She thought it best to remain unseen for now. A joyous commotion near the royal pavilion announced the arrival of Prince Diran. He was a young, confident man who carried himself with quiet grace. He wore a regal Iyabode embroidered with gold thread and greeted the crowd warmly. The moment he entered, drumbeats intensified, and a flurry of excitement swept through the festival. Wura and Femi rushed to the front, elbowing others aside to catch the prince's attention. Iyabode followed, squealing with fake delight. But the prince, though polite, seemed unimpressed. He nodded to them briefly and continued moving through the crowd, greeting elders and exchanging pleasantries with dignitaries. From a distance, Kemi watched with fascination. She had never seen such elegance and poise. Curiosity tugged at her. What would happen if she met him? A flutter of doubt crept in. She was just a village girl, after all. Yet her mother's beaded slippers sparkled as if to remind her, "You belong here." As Kemi wandered by a row of stalls selling handmade crafts, she felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Prince Diran, flanked by two guards. Her breath caught in her throat. Up close, the prince looked even more refined. "I apologize for startling you," he said in a soft voice. "I noticed your slippers. Their exquisite, traditional beadwork is rare these days." Stunned, Kemi managed to murmur, "They belong to my mother." She lowered her gaze, unsure of what to say next. The prince smiled warmly. "You must be proud of her. Are you enjoying the festival?" Kemi nodded, finding her voice. "It's wonderful, Your Highness. I am honored to be here." The prince's curious eyes lingered on her gown and the slight glow from the slippers, as if sensing a deeper story. Before Kemi could say more, a drum performance began, drawing Prince Diran's attention away. He excused himself politely, promising to talk again. Kemi watched him disappear into the crowd, her heart pounding. She had just spoken with the prince. Unbeknownst to Kemi, Iyabode, Wura, and Femi had spotted the exchange from a distance. They didn't realize it was Kemi, but they seethed with jealousy at the mystery girl who had captured the prince's notice. Their eyes burned with envy, determined to uncover her identity. Night fell deeper over Ibadan, and the festival's energy soared. Drummers performed hypnotic beats, prompting men and women in vibrant outfits to join traditional dances. Prince Diran took to the dance floor, moving gracefully, occasionally glancing around as if searching for someone. Wura and Femi tried to catch his attention, weaving through dances clumsily, but he didn't seem to notice them. Then, as if guided by fate, the prince's eyes landed on Kemi across the courtyard. She stood quietly by a small fountain, her ochre gown and slippers reflecting the lantern light. Gathering her courage, Kemi stepped onto the dance floor. To her surprise, Prince Diran offered his hand. A hush fell over the crowd as they danced together, swaying in harmony with the drums. Caught in the euphoria of the moment, Kemi momentarily forgot her stepmother and stepsisters were nearby. But it wasn't long before Iyabode spotted her. The woman's face twisted in rage. She nudged Wura and Femi, who immediately recognized Kemi, despite the beautiful attire. Shock and envy consumed them. Just as the final drumbeat ended, Kemi caught sight of Iyabode storming through the crowd with a furious glare. Fear gripped her heart. She recalled how Iyabode had threatened to throw her out if she stepped out of line. Panic took hold. She had to leave before Iyabode caused a scene or the prince discovered her family ties in a humiliating way. Adrenaline coursed through Kemi as she rushed to exit the festival grounds. Prince Diran called after her, "Wait. Don't go." But her steps quickened. She maneuvered through dancing revelers and startled vendors, her heart hammering like a talking drum. Suddenly, one of the beaded slippers slipped off her foot and fell to the ground. A wave of despair hit her. Those slippers were her mother's legacy. But Iyabode's enraged shouts grew louder behind her. If she went back, she'd be caught. With tears stinging her eyes, she decided to abandon one slipper and keep running. Prince Diran, seeing the slipper on the floor, knelt to pick it up. Confusion and concern clouded his expression. Who was this captivating young woman, and why had she fled? He held the slipper gently, as if it were the key to a mystery that he felt compelled to solve. By the time Iyabode and her daughters reached the spot, Kemi had vanished into the crowd. Panting and furious, Iyabode demanded, "Where is she?" People only shrugged. Wura and Femi gnashed their teeth in frustration, while Prince Diran silently vowed to find the owner of the delicate beaded slipper. Kemi, meanwhile, hurried through winding streets until she reached Mama Basira's cart. Without explanation, she climbed on, breathless. Mama Basira whipped the donkey, and they rode away under the cover of darkness. Kemi clutched the remaining slipper, sobbing softly. She had tasted a dream, only for reality to strike back. Prince Diran wasted no time. The morning after the festival, he sent messengers throughout Ibadan and neighboring towns. He sought the owner of a unique beaded slipper. Many women stepped forward, each claiming the slipper as theirs, but none could fit it. Word spread to Iyabode village, where rumors began to swirl. Iyabode and her daughters also heard the news. Wura and Femi tried to force their feet into the slipper but found it impossible. The beads dug painfully into their skin, and it refused to fit. Furious, Iyabode ordered them to stay quiet about Kemi's possible connection. She feared losing control over the household if Kemi became linked to royalty. Meanwhile, Kemi resumed her chores at home, limping slightly because she only had one slipper left. Iyabode acted as though nothing had happened, piling work on Kemi and forbidding her to speak of the festival. The memory of dancing with the prince felt like a dream, but the missing slipper reminded her it was all real. One late afternoon, Adewale finally returned. He had secured new trade deals in Ibadan. Joy filled Kemi's heart to see her father safe, but Iyabode quickly monopolized him, pouring out false stories. She exaggerated her motherly devotion to Kemi and complained of how ungrateful Kemi had become. Adewale noticed Kemi's subdued demeanor. Late that night, he pulled her aside. "My dear child, what troubles you?" he asked gently. In hushed tones, Kemi explained all that had happened, her never-ending chores, the humiliations, and the festival night. Adewale's eyes widened with shock and anger. "I had no idea. I promise, I will make this right." The next day, Prince Diran and his entourage arrived in Iyabode with the slipper, determined to find its rightful owner. Villagers gathered curiously as women of all ages tried to squeeze their feet into the delicate shoe. Wura and Femi stood by, feigning disinterest but secretly hoping to fool the prince. Once again, the slipper refused to fit them. As the prince prepared to leave, Adewale stepped forward and cleared his throat. "Your Highness, may my daughter try?" Iyabode attempted to protest, but the prince nodded. Nervously, Kemi approached, clutching the matching slipper in her hands. Gasps rippled through the crowd when they saw the identical design. She removed her worn sandal and gently slipped her foot into the beaded shoe. It fit as if molded to her foot. The crowd erupted in applause and disbelief. Prince Diran's face lit up with recognition. "It's you," he breathed, recalling their dance. Overcome with emotion, Kemi bowed her head. "Yes, Your Highness. I ran away out of fear. I never meant to deceive." The prince smiled warmly. "You showed me kindness and humility. It is I who must apologize for not finding you sooner." Iyabode, Wura, and Femi stood in stunned silence, fear creeping into their eyes. Adiwale, emboldened, turned to his wife and stepdaughters. "You have treated Kemi unjustly. Your lies end here. You do not own this house, nor my daughter's future." Prince Diran offered his hand to Kemi. "I would be honored if you joined me in the palace, at least to explore the possibility of a better life, for both of us." Kemi accepted, tears of gratitude brimming in her eyes. She glanced at her father, who nodded proudly. That day, Kemi left Iyabode as a symbol of hope. Though the journey ahead was uncertain, she walked forward with the confidence that her mother's blessings and her own unwavering spirit had paved the way for a new beginning. The moral lesson of this story is that courage and self-belief can help overcome adversity, and true worth is found in the strength of one's character, not in outward appearances. Despite facing challenges and mockery, Kemi's determination and the legacy of her mother guide her to find her rightful place. The story emphasizes that authenticity, perseverance, and resilience lead to redemption and recognition.